Well, let's start, right? Cloud Continuum. What we want to show is that it's not really another buzzword. It's a way, it's a term that we use to show how to architect in the cloud. But before that, let's present ourselves a little bit. So I'm Osman. I'm originally from Romania, living in France. I have 20 years of experience in IT systems, 10 of them in Accenture as an architect. And well, I'm here to basically share with you my experience as an architect in IT and more specifically in the cloud. Arnaud.
And my name is Arnaud, and if the slide moves forward, and I'm Belgian. I'm also working in Belgium, and as Belgian as it gets. I mostly have experience in full-stack architecture. I'm a senior technology architect. Mostly working on large-scale projects. I've worked for the European Union for 5 years, and now I'm on an energy metering project. And today,
we will answer the question, how to architect for Cloud Continuum. So, it's not about what we put in the cloud. It's about how we do it. It's basically the methods, the best practices that we will share with you on, again, how to architect on the cloud. And here you just see a very high-level presentation, basically, assessment, establishing the continuum, maintaining the continuum. We will go much more in details during the presentation into these steps. But before we go there, it's very important for all of us to be on the same page with what we mean by Cloud Continuum.
So I'll be walking you through what the Cloud Continuum actually is. And if you think about the Cloud Continuum, and like Anna says, it's kind of a buzzword, right? And the Cloud Continuum isn't generally something that you achieve. It's something that you work on, it's something that you develop and you iterate on. It's really a journey. And the reason why we are talking about the Cloud Continuum is because we see that enterprises are using the cloud. It's with most enterprises, right? These percentages come from a 2024 report run by Accenture, but we see that a lot of companies struggle to really get value out of the cloud, to get the most out of it. Only 42% of the companies that we surveyed reported getting the full achievements that they intended out of the cloud. And the Cloud Continuum is something that can help you achieve this. And this is not working well. Okay. So, like I said, the Cloud Continuum is a journey. It's not something that you achieve, you need to continue working on it. And once you get to that Cloud Continuum, it means that you're able to adapt to technologies easier. You'll be, for example, if you need to implement AI or machine learning into your solutions, you'll be able to do it more seamlessly. You'll be able to be more efficient in your technology transformations. You'll be able to achieve compliance with your organizational rules or even governmental rules much easier. You'll be able to innovate, operate easier, and in essence, you'll be able to empower your future transformations. And the key here is to embrace the journey so you can stay ahead and shape your business. So this is all very abstract, so let's make it very simple. And let's compare the Cloud Continuum to a bicycle. Everybody knows a bicycle, right? And if you take your bicycle and you stick to your standard derailleur, your gear shift, you could argue that you're on the Cloud Continuum because you can upgrade your gear shift, you can replace it, you can improve it. You can rearrange it in a non-destructive way. But if you try to, for example, put the headlights of a car on your bicycle, it won't be very fun to ride anymore, right? So that's the key. As long as you treat it like a bicycle, you maintain it like a bicycle, you're on the continuum. And if you take a technical example, the bicycle is one thing, but just a basic example of implementing the continuum can be relying on a well-established standard like OAuth. You can upgrade, you can replace, you can improve on top of the standards. You can rearrange in a non-destructive way as long as you build around OAuth. But if you implement a bespoke authentication service in some other application running against this continuum, then you start seeing the operational challenges, and it will be more difficult to implement it. And really, there's 5 stages in which we see clients. And most clients today revolve around stage 1, 2, and 3. And where you see your initial cloud adoption, you're really thinking about clients that are migrating legacy systems to cloud platforms. They are establishing cloud infrastructure, they're getting rid of their on-premise and putting in the cloud. And the focus here is cost efficiency, improving operational speed, and getting rid of mountains of technical debt that have been accumulated over the years. The second stage is optimizing and becoming more mature, where you start playing with serverless, containerization, you start seeing what the cloud offers. You can start using cloud management tools for scaling, monitoring, and optimization, and so on. Once you get to the third stage, you're really looking at your application architectures, and you can start looking at using microservices, for example, or really starting to look into serverless. You start leveraging DevOps, you incorporate advanced cloud services. And then in stage 4 and 5, you start getting to the interesting stuff, where you start really integrating the cloud continuum. You establish, for example, your edge computing for latency-sensitive applications. You can start looking into stuff like using AI for decision-making, and you start integrating cloud into your overall business strategy. And then the last step is where you leverage the cloud for future technologies. Really start using GenAI for stuff that is more than a chatbot, or implement 5G for your enterprise, or maybe have a valuable solution on top of blockchain. But the cloud continuum is not a solution for everything, right? It's really for large-scale enterprises. So really static or siloed infrastructure, where, for example, you have one application that you just host on a virtual machine on Azure, is not a good candidate. It's really something for enterprises that have evolving systems and that need to iterate and work on their systems. So you might ask yourself, okay, that's good and everything, but why should you invest in it? And like I said before, and these are numbers from a 2023 report, a lot of enterprises are failing to adopt the cloud and are failing to achieve their goals. And we see that 42% of the companies that implement the cloud continuum exceed what they want to get out of the cloud. And this is really something that drives it. And moreover, something that we see in technology is that nowadays, it's not about taking your VMs out of your data center onto the cloud. There's really a lot of stuff that you can do. There's a lot of roads you can move forward on. Which one do you choose? And most importantly, how do you prevent from becoming a child in a candy shop and taking all of the cloud services? Because if you take too much, yeah, we had fun with AI image generation. If you take too many services, then it becomes difficult to operate and to maintain. And in general, having this mindset on the cloud continuum allows your organization to cope with those changes more easily, because you have a vision on the future and you can assess what the impact is of the technologies that you choose. And what we see is that there is an initial investment for the cloud continuum that takes a lot of effort. You need to set your plan, you need to change your organizational structure, you need to set rules to adhere to. So a lot of initial effort, but over time, Once you've set this and once you're running with this, your organization will be able to cope with those changes easier. They will be less drastic. Whereas if you don't have the Cloud Continuum, every time you have a change, you need to brace for impact. You need to make sure that people get along with it, that your systems are adapted, financial impacts, and so on. So the Cloud Continuum helps decrease the impact of large-scale projects on your organization. So will you struggle to adopt the Cloud Continuum? And unfortunately, the answer is yes. You have that initial investment that you need to get through, but the initial investment is worth it. And you really have to take on the mindset that the Cloud Continuum is something that you struggle towards to. Like I said, every inch of your organization is affected, from technology to procurement to the end user of solutions, because you have principles, patterns that you need to adhere to. It's a new way of thinking. Going forward, if you're on the continuum, the times of picking a piece of software off the shelf and spinning with it are over. You need to make sure that everything operates together. You don't want to put the headlights of a car on your bicycle. And over time, if you adopt the Cloud Continuum properly, your organization will become a champion at adopting change. And really, persistence is the key here. And if you think about struggling, you'll need to face, unfortunately, the technical debt that you have built up over the years, the legacy systems that you drag along, and the skill gaps that you have. Not only the technical skill gaps, but also the skill gaps of everybody around the technology and the business. They need to understand what it is to be on the continuum. And unfortunately, your organization needs to be cleansed from technical debt. And all your future developments, whether they're driven internally or externally, they need to adhere to principles, which means you need strong technical architecture and enterprise architecture. And once you have freed yourself from this technical debt, you've made the first step to efficient transformations. And you might say, okay, technical debt is there for a reason. We don't want to touch it. It's expensive. But you need to think of how expensive it is to continue dancing around technical debt. When it comes to legacy systems, you need to be aware of the legacy systems that you have around you. You don't necessarily need to throw them out of the door. It's also not necessarily possible, but you need to have a plan to either modernize, phase out, or cope with them. And then lastly, it's the skill gaps. It's the organizational change, your mindset that the organization needs to take. Everybody needs to be aware of the Cloud Continuum and they need to adhere to it. So that means that there needs to be very, very strong governance to make sure that you don't stray away from the continuum, because once certain people or bits of the organization start straying away from it, then it collapses like a house of cards. And the analogy that I like to make is that you cannot win a Formula One race with a 1995 minivan. Yes, it has 4 wheels, it has an engine, but you will lose. You will lose horribly. And if we continue the analogy, I don't know if there's Formula One fans here, take Red Bull for an example. They were always on the forefront, winning every game, and they've strayed away from their continuum, and now they're being surpassed by others. So being on the continuum is really something that you have to continue maintaining and working on to be successful.
Right. So as Arnaud was saying, one of the most important things in setting up Cloud Continuum is to have a strong technical and enterprise architecture in place. It was said before, approaching the Cloud Continuum is a journey. It's not something that you do once and then you forget about. Cloud Continuum basically it's technology being ready at all time to answer to your business needs. And for technology to be able to adapt, you need to help it adapt. So that means that technology, so the architecture of your technical landscape, needs to follow at all times your business vision. You have the business vision, you know what you want to do at the business level, and technology needs to be there ready to help you achieve that. So once you have your business vision plus your technology in place, so the architecture for Cloud Continuum needs to be ready, adaptable enough for you, then you can be ready to go in the market and to be competitive in the market. The architecture for Cloud Continuum, basically, it's composed of choices and standards. So we make the technology choices, we set up the standards, and then, as it was previously mentioned, we need to keep to those standards throughout the organization. And then we put the policies and processes in place, so the governance layer, and well, we're ready to go. Another thing that is very important, and it's not only for Cloud Continuum, it's a general rule. The most beautiful architecture, it's an architecture that is simple. Even though the landscape is complex, the architecture needs to stay simple so that you can identify very fast the changes that are required and to take decisions according to your needs. When the architecture becomes complex, and that means policies and standards are not standardized throughout the landscape anymore. You have choices taken in, let's say, random ways. Your architecture becomes very complex. And out of the sudden, you're looking at it and you're saying, like, why this is happening? It's good to ask why, but it's good to ask why before you take a decision, not after you took the decision. So think of your cloud architecture like a fitness routine, right? You can, on one hand, you can be ready to lift shifts. So you've worked a lot on your strength, on your muscles, but that's the only thing that you know how to do. And then you have, on the other hand, the cloud architecture that needs to be flexible. So basically, on the right side, you see a girl that is flexible enough to be able to lift shifts, to run, to do all sorts of things, whatever is required in the moment. If she needs to roll over, she will do it. The guy in the left will be more difficult. So, do you want your architecture to be like in the left side, strong but really inflexible for your needs, or like in the right side, where it's ready to adapt per your needs? Then how to approach Cloud Continuum, right? We were saying that we have the business needs, first of all. That's where we're building the architecture on top of. Then you have the cloud technologies, you have the cloud approaches, meaning principles, standards, and you have the cloud mindset. It's also really important. Based on all this, then you can build your Cloud Continuum architecture with standards, policies, and granular technology choices. And then we can say that you're ready for your future technologies, capabilities, and projects. So you're ready for your technology landscape to adapt per your needs. Now, as we were saying, in order to have a successful Cloud Continuum implementation, there is this governance layer that is added on top of what you previously had. Principles and standards are part of this. In any kind of system implementation, we should have principles and standards. What we're saying with Cloud Continuum is that these principles and standards are even more important than before. You set them, you define them, and then you need to stick to them, because at the moment, as soon as you go against them or you go around them, your architecture becomes more complex. So the full landscape is starting to fall apart, and you won't be able to stay in the continuum anymore. Basically, you won't be ready to make the changes as fast as required. Then there are also a list of capabilities that you need to have for a successful Cloud Continuum implementation. If you look at them, they're quite straightforward. You would say, well, it's normal. Yes, sure, cloud management and monitoring tools. Everybody needs to have them, right? Yes, but then what we see in most of the projects is that monitoring tools are set up right before the go live, or if ever. Now, okay, I'll make a short story. I've heard a lot of times experienced architects, 20 years more of experience, telling me, yeah, well, we are in this SaaS platform. I've been working in it for 20 years. I don't need to implement a monitoring tool because it's the SaaS provider that will cover it for me at any time. They are there, they're monitoring, and in case there is a problem, they will solve it. And I'm like, no, that's totally false. If you're telling me that, it means that something will go wrong. It's always built for failure. Whenever you're taking a decision, think that you need to build for failure. So the best way to build for failure is to put in place a strong observability and monitoring tool that will help you keep the system up and running at all times. And that's just one example. So this is, again, a list of capabilities that we suggest to have in place at all time, even though not everybody is, deadlines, budget, and so on. It's easily to have them overlooked, but if you want to have your system up and running at all time, adaptable for any kind of new business requirements, these capabilities must be implemented. So, how to execute Cloud Continuum? First of all, whenever we're starting a project of transforming to Cloud Continuum, we need first to have an image of the current state. Like, okay, where are we right now with your landscape? Then after we have this image in mind, we start the design process, so basically the architecture. We start the implementation, we go in the implementation, and after that we're saying, okay, now we've established Cloud Continuum, we have the technical landscape ready, we have the governance in place, and then we must not forget that we need to sustain it. So every 6 months, let's say max 1 year, review again, all the design, see if you're still aligned to your business needs. And if not, go back to the design, implement, sustain. It's an ongoing process, an ongoing investment, an ongoing effort. So we have a couple of use cases. Energy management. Let's think about energy management. We are right now living in a time when energy is very important. We want to maximize to minimize the consumption of energy and to maximize the added value that is bringing. So how can Cloud Continuum help? Well, think about having real-time information coming from all the households that are consuming and producing energy in the same time. Like this, you can know at all times the decisions that you need to take in order to not have outages or in order to optimize the consumption. And the Cloud Continuum system landscape can help you to reduce risk of downtimes, speed up the advantage that you have to adopt faster the new technologies that are required to better manage electricity consumption and to have a better value, a quick value realization. So another example, let's think about a retail, so a supermarket, right? With locations everywhere, let's say in the country or in the world. And you need to know at all time the stocks, the capacity that they have. And for example, a shop assistant could give you real-time information about what you can find, where you can find it, and so on. Then, staying true to the Cloud Continuum means that, again, we're going back to highlighting the fact that once you have the Cloud Continuum in place, we have an iteration process. So we have the business vision, business needs, current landscape, current challenges. Based on this, we have the technology choices. So we make the technology choices, policies and processes. And then we continue to periodically reassess and fit gap with current state. And more than that, so good Cloud Continuum architecture is never ending. You can't set and forget. You start the journey, you architect, make use of the continuum, re-architect continuum, purpose change to continuum framework, adapt continuum framework, and again, in the loop, in the iteration, it's never ending. Yeah. Now, questions.
So we do have a question, and the question is, how do we measure compliance with the Cloud Continuum, and how do we know how far close we are to the continuum in our clouds? So I think this is a question for you because it's part of the architecture, right? Where you have to set your rules of the continuum. Or you want to take it?
Oh, yes, of course. Okay, so compliance, right? It's cloud compliance. I know that security and compliance discussions are usually endless. I know that there is a lot of effort usually put into convincing additional parties that compliance in the cloud is possible, you basically have two choices. Either you put the effort at the beginning to take the compliance requirements one by one and tackle them, and it's possible. So basically, you agree with the compliance requirements from the beginning, or you say, okay, I give up, it's too much work, let's go back on premises, have all the landscape there secured between, I don't know, steel walls, and like this I'm compliant, it's secure, I have everything under control. I hope I answered to...
If I may just add on top of that, it's also about having a very strong architecture capability with a license to kill. And when I say license to kill, is your architecture capability needs to be able to be empowered to assess what your organization is doing. They need to understand what your organization needs, and they also need to be able to say, no, this tool that you're trying or software package that you're trying to implement doesn't work in the Cloud Continuum that we have foreseen. This is the key. And then you need to make a decision. Either you revise your Cloud Continuum because it's something that the business really needs, or you start finding a product or solution that does fit in your Cloud Continuum. So that is part of important in staying true to the Cloud Continuum.
We have more. Oh. What are the advantages or disadvantages of using a single cloud system versus a multi-cloud approach? What do you prefer to architect? Okay, so as I was saying, it is very important to keep it simple. Whenever you feel that you want to complexify the landscape, you ask yourself 20 times, why? Having multi-cloud is complexity, because having multi-cloud means you need to set up, maintain integration. It means that you need to maintain later on two different types of technologies. It means that continuous delivery, continuous integration, DevOps approaches need to go on two clouds if you have the application layer in two clouds. Even though you don't have, let's say, you want to only have your application layer in one cloud and in the other cloud you only have cloud native services, still it requires a lot of maintenance. So whenever you need to go on multiple cloud, you ask yourself, why? Is it really needed? If you're already there, if you already started to be in the candy shop and you got distracted by everything that is out there, so you wanted to take something from every possible cloud existing, then the suggestion would be to go back a little bit and try to bring all your landscape in one cloud is possible.
Make it fit for purpose.
Yes, in short. So, did I answer to the question?
Good.
Okay. We have another question.
How can I be sure that I am on the Cloud Continuum and don't fall off, requiring expensive rebuilds and course changes later? And again, this is part of the governance. You need an architecture capability with this ability to direct, right? They need to be part, they need to be in on the procurement side, they need to be in on the business strategizing side. Architecture is not just about technology, it's about making sure that the technology follows what the organization needs. So Have your architecture capability in on the entire process, and then they'll be able to determine whether what is happening adheres to the Cloud Continuum, either modify the Cloud Continuum or make sure that whatever is foreseen fits in there. You might think that this prolongs any decision making, but like you say, rebuilding and reiterating is very expensive. It's better to invest the time beforehand than to already have spent a few $1,000,000 to only realize, well, what I did here doesn't work. We've seen many clients like that, and we've repaired many situations like that, and it's not a situation that you want to be in. And then another question, and for the single cloud versus multi-cloud discussion, how do you convince your client's single cloud is simple and the best way to go when they are adamant they want multi-cloud? I know where this question is coming from. I mean, you need to create your solutions to something that fits, right? And it all depends on the maturity of your client. Being in multi-cloud will make your solution more complicated. You will need to create bigger layers of technology. You don't need to convince your client, but you need to make sure that your client is sufficiently mature and give them the tools to make a good decision and a path forward. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Anna?
Is there an easy way to get started with Continuum? Are there any quick wins or easy starting points? Well, it depends on where you are. Remember, we need first to do the assessment to see where we are with currently. And then it also depends on where we want to go. Like the target state based on the business vision. And afterwards, we will create a roadmap. Current state, roadmap towards the target state. An easy way to get started. Where do you start? So it's the current state that is very important. If you're on a greenfield, that's easy, right? Okay, you start by buying a cloud account. Regarding the single cloud solutions, what are your thoughts about resiliency and vendor locking?
I hate to provide a consulting answer, but it depends, right? It depends. But it depends what you need. I mean, you're always vendor locked to a degree. I mean, if you just want to run Kubernetes on AWS VMs, then what's the benefit of being on AWS? There's always specificities and flavors that link you to a specific vendor. And then resiliency, okay, you can argue there, you need to make sure that whatever resiliency your provider provides is sufficient, and if you need to build beyond that, then yes, multi-cloud can be a valuable solution. Just be aware, the more complex you make your solution, the more complex it is to maintain, the more complex it is to build around it. So it's just something that you need to be aware of as an organization. I don't know if that answers your question.
And I would also add, so resiliency in single cloud. And I've had this in one of the projects. So, resiliency on a single cloud. Currently, all the cloud providers are giving you like everything you need in order to build resilient applications. You can back up your data throughout multiple regions, availability zones. You can have, to spin out your, your applications on different regions. So when you're thinking about resilience, you don't need to think that, okay, let's also go on another cloud and duplicate our system in there, just to make sure that in case something happens with cloud number 1, we still have an application in cloud 2. That's that's not what we want to do. So resiliency in single cloud, it's totally okay. Vendor locking, yeah, Arnaud already answered. What I would also add is that the cost for vendor locking is usually lower than the cost of maintaining multiple clouds. So it depends on where you want to put your money.
Alrighty. That's bang on 40 minutes. So thank you very much for listening, and have a great day.
Thank you.